So now I'm doing this long seam that you probably remember from the red piece of this hat. Okay, so now we're going to put the two pieces together. So let me just double check my pieces here. Okay, and make sure I've cut all my threads. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so I'm going to put right sides to right sides. And I'm just going to tuck the one hat inside the other hat. I will be lining these seams up. And what I will do is bend, rather than trying to open them, I will just bend two of the seam allowances one way and two the other way, which will give me the same effect, but it's just a little bit easier. I'm pinning that so that as I get it in the machine, I want to make sure that that seam allowance stays put. And for any of you who have taken the pillow class with me, I will use a red and green start and stop pin so that I remember to leave an opening to turn my hat, okay? Now, if you're doing this with a serger, there's a different way to do this. Which would be, actually you do the opposite. You put wrong sides together and just serge all the way around the bottom of the hat, and then pull your serged in neatly. So I just want to make sure this is all even around the edge before I put any more pins in. I'm not going to make my opening where this seam is because I find that it's going to be easier to turn it and then top stitch if I do that in another spot. So here's my green pin that I'll use for my start pin. And the red pin reminds me to stop so I've got enough room to turn my hat. And actually while I'm here, I should just put another pin over here to keep everything lined up nicely. What I don't want is for my hat to feel twisted because I've forced too much of the fleece into one space. All right, so here I'm at my green pin. Put my presser foot down. Now I'm going to pull this pin out. A couple stitches forward, and again we're still at our 1/4 inch seam allowance. Back a little bit. It's really important not to be pulling or stretching this fleece, because what you'll end up with is a lot of ripples. I suppose you could go around on a stretch stitch. That would be another way to do it. I'm just going to try this with a regular stitch and see how it looks. Now, if your machine is kind of pushing down too hard on the fleece and you have an adjustment on the top of your machine for presser foot pressure, you may want to let up a little bit on your presser foot pressure, and then it should go through a little bit more smoothly. This is a Viking, and it's really just fine with the fleece. Coming up on my red pin. So you can see this is a pretty quick process, this hat. about probably 20 minutes once you get all the steps down. Okay, I'm just gonna test this. You can see with a polyester thread, it's fine. I'm not hearing it wanting to pop at all, so that's good. But it's always a good thing to test because you could always go back around with a stretch stitch. Now I'm gonna find my little opening and I'm gonna turn it. And I'm not a big fan of ironing fleece, but I don't think it would melt if you are an ironing person. I would probably put maybe a little towel over it and a little steam if you feel so inclined to press it. Now pick the side that you think you're going to tend to wear out the most, and that's the side you're going to top stitch on. You do want to kind of get this even. So you can see I'm taking my fingers and rolling this back really well. Okay, so it's a bit of a finger press and some pins to kind of hold that. Because again, what I don't want to do is end up stretching this and having bias lines as I sew. And I want to get that seam pushed all the way out to the edge. Oops. I gotta get that. So then where you turned your hat, you're gonna roll it in 1/4 of an inch and pin that well because it will try to unroll on you for sure. And I'm gonna put another pin at the beginning and end of so that I know where that opening is. I pay a little extra attention to it. In fact, I'm going to start my top stitching there. And really, let's see, what can we do here? We could do something fancy with our top stitching. If you have stitches on your machine that are fun, this is really the last step. Now, if you want to get really fancy and you know you're going to wear it out one way or the other, you could sew a button on the top and a button on the inside to kind of hold your whole hat in place if you want, or a pom-pom, but that way you wouldn't be turning it. So it's kind of up to you. If you want to do something cute, go for it. And I'm going to put my presser foot again on the edge because I want to make sure I catch where I rolled this up 1/4. Holding my threads. This is just a little feather stitch. Oops, it's not what I thought. Oh, okay. Kind of little crosses. What you want to do is make sure you pick a decorative stitch that has stretch, which this one does. And be patient because the machine's going